K-Town for All is a volunteer grassroots organization serving Koreatown's unhoused community members through direct aid and political advocacy. K-Town for All founder Sharon Varghese and attorney Kate Willis share their experiences in advocating for better housing policies and services for the unhoused community.
This is another important thing in eviction defense is keeping people in affordable units. In LA, we have a rent stabilization ordinance, and in K-Town especially, we have a large number of rent stabilized units because it applies to most units that are built before 1979, if I have my facts straight. So there are a lot of older buildings in K-Town. So many people in K-Town live in rent stabilized units, which means that their rent can only be increased a certain amount every year. At the moment, there is a rent freeze due to COVID protections, but I believe next year it can be increased 3.5%, which is one of the strongest rent protections that we have in the city. So it's really important to keep people in these units because often it's families that have lived there for years and years, and it's the only way that they can actually afford a unit. Market rate right now is crazy high. It's not something you can afford on minimum wage or government benefits or social security. And we don't have a true living wage right now in California that would allow the average person to afford what rents actually are.
I know that K-Town for All was recently involved in city council and ramping up some support, to make phone calls. Can you both tell me what you believe the state can do to move towards a solution?
So, right to counsel is really important. In this country, we've established that you have a right to counsel in criminal cases, but not in any civil cases. And there is a growing movement to do that for evictions because it is so important that people are protected during something like an eviction. Going through an eviction is one of the most devastating things that someone can go through. It's an incredibly traumatizing experience, and people can't navigate this legal system on their own.
And I'm happy to add a few things. I think one is not to abandon a housing first approach. There have been a lot of institutions and researchers who have been trying to push for everything but housing. But the thing is, at the end of the day, the only thing that solves homelessness is housing. There has to be housing, and that has to be prioritized, is keeping people in homes and making sure there are homes for people who don't have them.
Here in LA, we're seeing this Inside Safe program, and we briefly talked about it during our initial meeting. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
It's just something I've given a lot of thought to lately, especially. Again, things like Inside Safe, which for anyone who doesn't know, is a local program to house people in hotels. It's temporary. Temporary short-term solutions is that they are not housing.
It costs a lot of money to do this when we could just be spending money on housing.
Sharon, if you could tell our audience, please, where can folks find you and how can they become involved with the organization?
We're on social media at K-Town for All, written out, so K-Town FOR all. And our website is ktownforall.org. Anyone is welcome to come to our outreach. There's information on how to access it. We always post right before we're going to do it. We also have our online meetings. You can always email us too at engagement@ktownforall.org if you'd like to get involved. And the other thing I'd say is that we're not the only ones across the state. There are people doing what we do and doing, whether that's outreach, whether that's advocacy, however it is that you want to get involved. But that there's a real value to doing this where you are, to getting out in your neighborhood and talking to people. And I think that if no one's doing it, I think that's the easiest way to start, is we have best practices that we can link to. If you email us, or I think that may be linked on our website as well, it's really easy. Talk to your neighbors. Talking to your neighbors about where they are and getting to know your own community is how we all get better together.